paralyzed for how many years? Does anyone remember? Guess a number. 38. Who said 38? 38 years. Yes, it is 38 years. Okay. So that's a long time to be crippled in your body with a sickness. It's a very long time. And we would all assume that if any of us, had a flu or had any kind of sickness, we're just so agitated, like, when am I going to get back to my health and feel better again, right? So imagine this man, for 38 years, he was paralyzed. That's a very long time, right? And not only that, but, the story says, and we're going to read it together. Let's read it together, actually. Okay, so the story says, after this, there was a feast of the Jews, and Jesus went up to Jerusalem. Now there in Jerusalem by the sheep gate, a pool, which is called in Hebrew Bethesda, having 5 porches. In these lay a great multitude of sick people, blind, lame, paralyzed, waiting for the moving of the water. For an angel went down at a certain time in the pool and stirred the water. Then whoever stepped in first after the stirring of the water was made well of whatever disease he had. Now a certain man was there who had an infirmity 38 years. When Jesus saw him laying there and knew that he had already been in that condition a long time, he said to him, "Do you want to be made well?" The sick man answered him, "Sir, I have no man to put me into the pool when the water is stirred up. But while I'm coming, another steps down before me." Jesus said to him, "Rise, take your bed, and walk." And immediately the man was made well and took up his bed and walked. Okay? So, what are we hearing about the story is that there was a pool, okay? It's like literally, if you can imagine a pool in your backyard, it was like a circular pool, okay? And the story says that there was an angel that comes and steers the pool, okay? And whoever jumps first gets healed. So this place was very crowded with a lot of sick people. It was very crowded with people coming in hope that they would be healed, okay? But this man said something very important to Jesus. He said what? "Sir, I have no man to put me in the pool." So he was laying there, but he had no one, okay? And then verse 6 says, when Jesus saw him laying there, and I want you to remember this, in whatever difficult circumstances you're going, remember this, when Jesus saw him, did he signal to Jesus? Did he call on Jesus? Who saw him? Jesus, okay. Who came to initiate healing? Jesus, okay. He knew that this man was suffering. He was in great helplessness and hopelessness, okay. So today the message is, wherever you are in life, whatever you are battling, okay, Jesus is going to send us today a message of hope, okay, that I may come and meet you wherever you are in your area of defeat or whatever you're struggling with, okay. All right, so today's talk, I'm going to focus on 4 things. We're going to define hopelessness. We're going to understand the causes of hopelessness. We're going to understand the effects of hopelessness. And coming to conclusion, that's why you're all here today. How can we overcome hopelessness? Okay? All right, so define hopelessness. What is hopelessness? I want you to tell me in your own words. Maybe there is an experience that you've went through, or maybe you know somebody battling hopelessness, or just a general idea of what is hopelessness. How can we define hopelessness? Come on. Throw it out. Don't be shy. Talk about it. What is hopelessness? Yes. Feeling like we're never going to get better? Yeah. Okay. So maybe feeling stuck. Yes? Rejection, feelings of rejection, right? Feelings of rejection may develop into feelings of hopelessness. What else? What does a hopeless man looks like? Or a hopeless person? Thank you, Adel. Yes, so feeling helpless. And sometimes in situations we feel like we're really helpless. We don't know what to do. Okay? Any other thoughts about how can we define hopelessness? Come on, guys. I said you're going to be the speaker today. Yes. 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 Perfect. Thank you. Wonderful. So, yes, it is being stuck in a dark tunnel or a dark vision. Feelings of oppressed by darkness, right? It's very dark. Thank you. Any other thoughts? Okay, so let's move fast. So, hopelessness is the absence of hope. What does the absence of hope mean? It means like when people come to me for therapy and some patients are suicidal or they're hopeless, I see them seeing life through a dark lens of sunglasses. They cannot see any hope. I try to work with them, is there anything working in your life? No. Do you think things can get better? No. So, eclipsed by darkness, okay? Oppressed by darkness, feelings of despair, feelings of defeat and helplessness, okay? So I really feel defeated in whatever area it is, okay? I feel very defeated, okay? Some people call it pessimism, so I'm very pessimistic. Things are never going to change. I have no hope. The sun is not going to rise again, okay? And some people experience it or share that it is a form of intense emotional pain. I'm in pain. And that's why sometimes hopelessness, in our worst case scenarios may lead to somebody, taking their life because they feel intense emotional pain. Feeling stuck, again, hopelessness is like on a spectrum, okay? So in the worst case scenarios, sometimes we say that hopelessness is a symptom of depression. So if somebody's depressed, we say hopelessness is a symptom of depression, okay? All right. Any questions so far? We're doing good? Everyone's here? Okay. All right. So most importantly, I want you to remember that hopelessness is absence of hope. No hope. Okay? All right. What causes hopelessness? So what causes a person to sink into hopelessness, feeling like it's really, really dark and things are not going to change? What are the causes of hopelessness? Losing your faith, good one, yeah. So I have no faith. Like all the promises that God's saying, they will not work. God's not going to come and save me. The sun will not rise again, right? I'm not going to feel happiness or feel cheerful again, okay? Yes, that's a big one. That hurts a lot, right? So feelings of disappointment, right? Like I really, really worked hard and, I'm not seeing any results. So that sometimes leads to feelings of hopelessness, right? What else? What are some causes of hopelessness? Try to think. Perfectionism. Okay. Help me understand that more. Okay, so if you're saying if you're having perfectionist tendencies, sometimes you feel hopeless because things will never be as perfect as I want them to be. Okay, possibly. Any other thoughts about what may cause hopelessness? Yes. Allowing? That's a beautiful one. Thank you. Yes, so allowing negative thoughts, right? Yes, allowing negative thoughts. Definitely hopelessness is a result of our what? Thinking, okay? And people, when they come to therapy, they're hoping for somebody to change their what? Thinking, right? Okay, so what are the causes of hopelessness? So causes of hopelessness are caused by unexpected life crises. Like what? Death of a loved one, right? Somebody getting diagnosed by a major illness in the family, right? Earthquakes, losing a home, a job, okay? Unexpected life crises. Hopelessness is also caused by life stressors. Okay, so we all go in life carrying this pressure. Pressure to perform, pressure to succeed, right? Pressure to look good, pressure to fit in socially, right? Pressure maybe to want to be known or seen or being popular. Life stressors. What else are some examples of life stressors? Financial burdens, right? Looking for a job, failing that interview. What else? Exams. Yeah, so life stressors can lead to us being in a dark place where we may experience hopelessness, okay? Now, the third one says grief and loss. And grief and loss means what? Loss of our what? Of our dreams and hopes, right? So sometimes, I dreamt of, I worked really hard to get into that top school and I got rejected, right? So that loss sometimes make me feel what? May lead to hopelessness, right? So I'm not good. Why did I do this? Nothing works, right? Okay. And like my friend here said, the next one in green, it says cognitive distortions. And this is very important. Maybe this is what I want you guys to come out today, understanding that the causes of hopelessness is cognitive means our thinking, okay? And distortions means if you look at a blurry picture, we call it distorted. It's not clear, okay? So hopelessness is a result, can be caused by unclear thinking, okay? So sometimes when I'm in a dark place, I'm not really thinking right? Hope is there, but my thoughts is what? I'm having this tunnel vision, right? I can't see outside the world of darkness. I'm wearing a dark sunglasses, so all my thoughts are telling me what? It's dark, and it will stay dark, and there's no light outside. But is that the result of my stressors, or is that the result of whatever situation or crisis that I'm going through? No, it's a result of what? My own thinking, okay? So I taught a class before, it's called Stress and Coping in school. And this is what the research said, okay? Stress is what? It's our emotional response to things that are beyond our limit of control. So there's no such a thing as I can't hold something like this and say, hey, this is stress. Stress is my response to the stressors of life. Stress is my response to crises. And my response has a lot to do with my what? With my thinking, okay? So the causes of hopelessness sometimes is my own thinking, okay? Which we call cognitive distortions, okay? Another cause of hopelessness we call clinical depression, which is a real disorder. Some people, doing really good in life, excelling, everything is perfect, having good jobs, doing good in school, and they just, battle with clinical depression, which sometimes is caused by chemical imbalances in the brain. So it may not be due to any life circumstances, but it could be due to clinical depression, okay? All right. Now let's go into understanding what is the effects of hopelessness. So let's say I faced a stressor in life. I faced a big crisis, whatever it is. I lost my job. I got fired. I failed, a semester in school. I'm grieving this unpresent parent. I'm grieving a loss of friendships. I'm just feeling hopeless, okay? If I continue in those dynamics, or if I dwell on those feelings of helplessness, or I foster those emotions, what is the effect of hopelessness on us? Think. Give me answers. Yes? Yes, Julie, thank you. So it causes loss of motivation, right? There is a theory, it's called the Hopelessness Theory, okay? So when people look at their circumstances and say, it's hopeless, and I'm helpless, I'm going to give up, and I'm not going to do anything about it, okay? So hopelessness leads to what? Lack of motivation or lack of me trying, okay? What else are the effects of hopelessness? Try to think. So when I'm hopeless, how does this impact me? How does this affect me? Yes?
When you're hopeless, you feel like
Giving up, yes. Thank you. So giving up, lack of motivation to move forward, yes. Very true, yes. Feeling of numbness, yes. Hopelessness leads to feeling of numbness. Any other thoughts? Yes, low energy and mood for sure. Yeah, life is dark. Why should I try, right? Yeah. Of course, yes, it leads to sicknesses, right? Yeah. A lot of the research now says what? Mind and body are connected, right? So if I dwell on negative thoughts, if I feel this hopelessness and helplessness, it can affect my immunity. It can bring me a lot of sicknesses. Okay, so here's just a few of the effects of hopelessness that I wanted to share with you. And the first one, it says, impairs our rational thinking, okay? So think about when you are in a crisis mode. Like, let's say you just heard that your parent got in a car accident, God forbid, and they are in the hospital battling their life, okay? Can you now think about, oh, well, I need to do A, B, and C, and I can think through things in life. What happens is you go through what? Panic, the freeze response, right? So we cannot think clear, okay? A lot of time when people go to interview, we tell them what? Your number one enemy is your anxiety, okay? If you're anxious, your brain will not remember what you prepared for, because anxiety, just like hopelessness, impairs our thinking. You may be really, really studying really hard, but if you're anxious, right, there's a part of the brain, it's in the front, it's called the prefrontal cortex, which is responsible for our critical thinking. It does not work. It does not work under stress and anxiety and feelings of hopelessness, okay? So number one, remember that when you're feeling hopeless, your rational side of thinking is not really working, okay? And that's what leads to sometimes feeling like catastrophic, like, like I lose a best friend, I say, nobody's gonna love me, okay? I get rejected from school and I say, I'm a failure, right? My cognitive part of the brain is really not thinking right, okay? Narrow perspective like what? Again, we said that hopelessness is like wearing a dark sunglasses, okay? So my perspective is like this. I'm only seeing narrow perspective, one way, dark tunnel, okay? Hijacked by negative feelings, okay? Affects motivation to change, like we talked about earlier. So some of you, like, if I really want to get out of this mode and I really, really giving up to my hopelessness and to those feelings of despair, most likely you're not going to get out if you don't have, if you give up to those emotions. So it affects your feelings of change. I'd rather give up. So I'm trying to lose weight and then I feel hopeless about it. I just like, okay, I'm just going to start eating. Right? No motivation to change, okay? And it could lead to risky behaviors, and we know that in your generation, a lot of people do what we call self-medicating, right? So sometimes hopelessness can lead to what? People going into alcohol, drugs, and God forbids, the worst would be what? I want to take away my pain. They can harm themselves, okay? So these are some of the effects of hopelessness. Any questions so far? You guys are good? Okay. All right, so overcoming hopelessness. We come to the most important part of our talk today, which is how can we overcome this sense of hopelessness, right? If I lost a job, if I failed in school, if I got rejected in a relationship, if I'm having, very controlling parents, or if I'm having very tough parents, or if I'm, whatever the situation is, right? How can I overcome it? Yes? Mm-hmm. Yes. No, I think I'm getting what you're saying is that people who are in despair, their emotions are so real and their pain is so real. So it's hard for us to tell them, look outside that tunnel, right? And I'm going to get to your question. It's going to be a part of our solution and part of our coping skills when we feel hopeless, right? Okay. All right. So we're going to start by, so I'm going to divide our talk into clinical perspective, which is my work, like, giving you some coping skills, how to battle feelings of hopelessness. And we're going to get to the spiritual perspective, which is, I want you to come out today knowing that we have a living hope in Christ. So in Christ, there is living hope, okay? All right, so overcoming hopelessness, okay? So we start with something called cognitive reframing. What does cognitive reframing mean? Cognitive means thoughts. Reframing means what? Reframe it. Look at it different, okay? So if I, for example, tell you, if you're standing at that corner, what do you see? You may say, oh, I see this perspective, right? And then cognitive reframing say, okay, let's move you to that far end. Do you see a different vision? And people may say, what? Yeah, now I can see the altar. I didn't see the altar before, right? So cognitive reframing means what? Changing our thoughts, okay? So it's very important that when you are experiencing or battling any negative emotions or feelings of hopelessness, that you really start to question your thoughts. Is it really that dark? If I didn't get invited to one party, is it really that no one likes me? Right? If I, couldn't find the love of my life, does this mean I'm unlovable? Okay? So cognitive reframing means changing our thinking, okay? And changing our thinking comes with what? Questioning and disputing our negative thoughts, okay? So sometimes you have to really, really, really sit with yourself and say, am I really unloved? Is this really true? Okay? So with cognitive reframing comes very important point, and that answers your question. It's called emotional reasoning. Emotional reasoning is that when people feel a certain emotion, okay, they believe it's true. So if I failed an exam, I come out feeling like I'm a what? I feel like I am a failure. Okay, now let's look at your transcripts. Let's look at your history, right? Does your history say you're a failure? Probably not, okay? So number two, we got to learn that feelings are not facts. Feelings are not facts, okay? Whenever you're just feeling intense emotions, sit with it and accept it, but don't believe it. Sometimes those thoughts can be very deceiving and can be telling you lies, okay? So feelings are not facts, okay? Just because I can't see the light doesn't mean that there is no sun, doesn't mean that there is no hope, okay? All right. Moving to the blue one, it's called distress tolerance. And distress tolerance is, again, it's a coping skill we teach people in therapy. And it's basically learning that sometimes the feeling of hopelessness or anxiety is us trying to resist. I don't want to feel afraid. I don't want to be rejected. I don't want to fail that exam. I don't want to, not get that job interview, okay? So distress tolerance is basically telling people, accept that you may go through the fire, but the fire will not burn you, okay? So if you think of emotions, this is one thing I want you to remember. Feelings come and what? And go, okay? Our feelings are like our heartbeat. They change all the time. So if you're stuck with one emotion, I want you to remember that I'm going to sit with it. I can tolerate it. And this too shall what? Shall pass, okay? The fourth one says radical acceptance. It's another form of coping skill that we give to patients in therapy. And we tell them sometimes, again, like the point that I said earlier, is resisting against, reality. Accept reality. Accept that, yeah, I don't have to be liked by everyone. Accept that, part of life is going to be going through stressors and failures. So radical acceptance is I sit and I surrender and I say, God, I accept your will. I accept that, some things are not going to go my way. Okay? All right, solution focused versus problem oriented. I really want to go fast because I don't want to keep you guys here for long. So solution focused is when you are stuck in feelings of hopelessness, when you are stuck in depression, when you are stuck in any situation, people either think of the problem and they feel what? Stuck. Or they start to think of a solution. Thank you. Okay? So whenever you feel stuck or hopeless, step up and say, what can I do about it? Instead of feeling defeated by it. Okay? Self-efficacy, and self-efficacy means what? This is the number one coping skill that we want patients to know, that you have a choice. People that feel defeated and helpless do not move in life. They cannot get to where they want to be. Okay? So self-efficacy is you believing in yourself that I can do something. I can overcome this with the power of God. Okay? So self-efficacy is my choice. When I stand in a problem, am I going to let the problem, eclipse me? Or I'm going to say, I have something that I can do about it. Okay? Maybe seek help. Go talk to my father of confession. Talk to a friend. Okay? All right, gratitude, and I've heard this recently. They did a whole research in Stanford University, and they found that gratitude was one of the coping skills that helped people live a better, healthier life full of joy. Okay? So in any situation where you feel hopeless, remember this. It could be worse. Or there are still some things in my life that are still working. Okay? So I didn't get my dream job. I didn't get into the best career, right? But what am I grateful for still? Do I have a roof? Do I have friends? Am I healthy? Okay? So practice gratitude. Gratitude brings joy, okay? And the last one is seek professional help. So if anyone here today is really battling severe depression, okay, go seek help. Do not be ashamed to seek help. All right, now going into our spiritual talk, which why I was invited today, and here's our most important part of the talk is how can we overcome hopelessness through our faith or spiritually, okay? If there's one thing I want you to go out from today remembering, I want you to remember this, that Jesus Christ is our living hope. He is our living hope, okay? When St. Paul left, he was preaching, he said to Christians, if you want to live a Christian life, these are the top 3 most important virtues. And we all know them, and we see a lot of people doing the tattoo and t-shirts. It's called what? Faith, hope, and love. And this is going to be our prescription for battling hopelessness, okay? Faith, hope, and love. So remember, if I want to be living as a Christian, what is God asking me? He's asking me to live in faith, in hope, and in love, okay? All right, faith. So when I ask you to live with faith, what does faith do? If I'm really stuck in a very deep situation, and you guys can help me out, some pains are very severe and traumatic, and some people are going really through very painful experiences in life. How can my faith help me go through this? Any thoughts? And what does faith mean? Yes?
I feel like faith gives you hope sometimes because sometimes you don't believe something's going to happen, but God's greater than everything, and He can make anything happen. He's done miracles, made blind people see and stuff. So I feel like with God, there's nothing He can't do. So I feel like if you need Him instead of yourself, the most possible thing in the world.
Thank you, Julie. So I think that Julie's saying like faith in God's power, that he can, maybe I cannot overcome this, but he can help me overcome this, right? Any other thoughts? What does faith mean?
It's like believing something that you love without needing necessary evidence to believe that it does exist. Like just by relying on it and
Right.
trusting it.
Right.
Yeah.
Faith is not something tangible. Michael is sharing. Faith is what? We believe without seeing, right? So faith is what? Is trusting. Another word that explains faith is what? I trust, okay? If you've experienced a loving father in your homes, you trust your father will save you. You trust your father has your best interest, right? You trust that your father is never going to harm you, right? And you know, if you have a loyal friend, if you have a good friend, you trust that this friend has your back. And faith is trusting, okay? Trusting in what? Trusting in God's power, trusting in God's timing, and trusting that even though I walk through the valley of death, I feel no evil because you are with me, okay? I want us all to read this verse today, okay? Because a lot of the time the enemy causes us this cognitive distortion, plays with our thought whenever we're going through hard time. So let's all say this Bible verse together. For I know the plans I have for you, declares the Lord. Plans to prosper you and not to harm you. Plans to give you hope and a future. And this is where our anchor of faith should be, okay? God is not after me to harm me. The situation or the crisis is not going to harm me because God said, okay? His plans for me is to prosper me and not to harm me, okay? Psalm 34 says, the Lord is close to the brokenhearted. So if you're weeping or you are in pain or experiencing hopelessness, remember that he said, the Lord is close to the brokenhearted, okay? Do you think that Jesus himself experienced pain, emotional pain, right? Remember the night before crucifixion, what he said? He said, my soul is, I think, grieving to the point of death. And the Bible says that his veins on his head popped out. It's a medical condition that happens because of stress. So Jesus sees through our pain because he experienced pain. Okay? Faith means trust in the Lord with all your heart. And again, trust means what? I trust you, God. I don't see what's coming ahead. I can only see the dark tunnel, but I trust that you are the light, that you may bring changes. Okay? Trust and faith that all things work for the good. Do you guys all know this Bible verse? All things work for the good for those who love the Lord. Even when I'm failing, yes. Even when I'm rejected, yes. Even when I'm feeling alone, yes. All things work for the good for those who love the Lord. This is one of my favorite Bible verses in Psalm 68:20. It says, he delivers from death. He delivers from death. So he has ways that is beyond our comprehension. Whenever you feel stuck, let your faith be bigger than your fear, okay? He delivers from death. He will walk me through the storm. Whatever you're going through in life, this is your faith. He will walk with me through the storm. Today we started, a lot of you were not here, but we started with the hymn of Peter. When Peter was drowning, you know, Jesus, what did he do? He pulled his hand down and he what? He pulled him up. Okay? So this is my faith, that whatever I'm going through, okay, he feels my pain, he sees me, he will deliver me. And his plan for me is what? To prosper me, give me hope, and not to harm me. Okay. All right. Oh, it's stuck or what? Oh, I did. Hold on. Yes, all right. So we said that our antidote to hopelessness is faith, hope, and love. And actually, when St. Paul wrote those, they are, he wrote them in order, because without faith, you cannot have hope, okay? And this is what the Bible says. But those who hope in the Lord, can we all say it together? But those who hope in the Lord will renew their strength. They will soar on wings like eagles. They will run and not grow weary. They will walk and not be faint. Okay? But those who hope in the Lord will renew their strength. Maybe I don't have solutions for your problem, whatever you're going through. But you have to know that through your problem and amidst your storm, God will give you strength. Okay? They will soar on wings like eagle. You know why he put the metaphor of an eagle? Because the eagle can rise above all the winds and keep his wings out and stabilize his flying, regardless of what the weather conditions are. He can fly still. Okay? All right. Let's say this Bible verse together. Rejoicing in hope, patient in tribulation, continually instant in prayer. Okay? Rejoicing in hope. Okay? So, God is telling you, rejoice. You have a living hope. Who is our living hope? Christ himself. Okay? And the last one, love the greatest of all. Okay? Our world is hungry for love. A lot of the time, hopelessness is a result of feeling unloved or feeling alone. Okay? Today, God is telling you, I have loved you with, let's say it out loud, I have loved you with everlasting love. I have loved you with an everlasting love. Okay? Please don't doubt this. Okay? Whatever you're going through in life, always remember this. He loved me with an everlasting love. Love that's unconditional, and love that's not based on my purity or holiness or my deeds or my behavioral choices. God loves you unconditionally. Okay? And love one another. In therapy, there is a branch, it's called positive psychology, and we tell depressed patients to what? Do a good deed. Sometimes it's not about you, and sometimes when you do an act of kindness towards someone else, it helps you overcome those feelings of defeat, hopelessness, and sadness. Okay? So love one another and remember that you are very loved and valuable. I'm going to end up with this. Pop Shenouda is my great-grandfather's brother, okay? And he's very dear to me. And he told me this one time when I lost my father and I was grieving my father. And he said, in every situation that you're going to face in life, remember three things. God is present. All things work together for good. This too will end. Okay, let's say it together. God is present. All things work together for good. This too will end. Okay. And I am done. Any questions? All right. Anyone have any questions? No questions? You guys are good? All right. Okay, so before we go, I want us to remember this real quick again, because it's one of my very, very, very favorite verses. In Peter 1, he says, He has caused us to be born again to a living hope. A living hope means what? Christ is the living hope. Christ is able to change circumstances. And I want you to close your eyes and say it to yourself. He has caused me, and say your name, to be born again to a living hope. Thank you. All right.
Thank you so much, Marian. God bless you. What's it like being related to Pope Shenouda? That's pretty cool. I knew that. That's what I'm saying. What's it like being related to Pope Shenouda? Yeah, that's so cool.
You grow up taking it for granted, but
Yeah. That's awesome. That's really, really awesome. Maybe one day you can tell some stories. Sounds so cool. All right, guys. How's everybody doing? It's spring break, right? Right? That's good. You're in the right place during spring break. Okay, so burning question time. So burning question is more like discussion question, right? So it's up to you guys on how long to make it and how limited to make it. I have two burning questions. We can pick one, okay? Sometimes I come up with two different ones, and sometimes I only have one. Hey, come up with two and help me with one, okay? So the first one I thought about because it was related to mental health a little bit, and I was actually talking to a friend about it. And the question is either this one, mental health. Is it okay to struggle in mental illness? Why would we need mental health professionals or mental health even if we have God? We have Jesus, we have God, we have a one-on-one relationship with God. Why mental health? Why is that a thing? That's number one question. Number two question, we can get a little biblical, and I kind of like that question too, is why did God choose Judas to be part of this plan? Why would he pick somebody deliberately to hand him? And doesn't that kind of sound unfair? So two questions. What do you guys want to do, the mental health one or Judas? Mental health or Judas? Mental health, raise your hand. Mental health. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11. 11 mental health. How many Judas? Raise your hand. Judas. You're like, have Judas have mental health? How about we talk about the mental health of Judas? Okay, so Judas, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. Mental health ones. Okay. So mental health. So mental health. Why do we need mental health? If we have God, I mean, you just come to God, you pray, you be a good Christian, love Jesus, love other people, and you'll be stress-free. Yes, sir. Your name first, your age, GPA, and your credit score. Just kidding.
Hello.
Yeah, go ahead.
Oh,
That's a
okay.
microphone. It's a microphone.
What I think is like, he didn't create us for, like, that is kind of true. Like, why don't we look to, why don't you just think of, like, God when you're in those situations? But what I think of it as is, we weren't created on this earth just to be by ourselves. We were created for a community and for other human connection. And that's what I think. But
I like that answer. You're saying that we're created on earth with other people in a community for human connection. But what does that have to do with mental health? Help me link that if you have an answer, if you have a response. What does that have to do with seeking God instead of seeking mental health professionals? If you want me to come back to you, we can.
I'm a counter ask you, why do we need a COVID vaccine if there is God, right? So if you're not healthy, mentally healthy, you might be mentally ill. So it's just a regular disease or illness. So
عايز يودينا في
ها؟
عايز يودينا بعيد.
خلاص أنا آسف. سلام.
Why do we need the COVID vaccine? I don't know. So way above my pay grade, my friend. Way above my pay grade. Let's talk about mental health. I'm a mental health professional, so I don't know. That would have been a hard question to answer like a year ago. I think right now we can answer that question. It's all right. The question is, why do we need mental health? Like, why is mental health such a big need when we can just seek God? We could just seek God directly. Go ahead. Your name? Brian.
Brian.
Nice to
All
meet
right.
you.
And I think we need mental health because, like Marian was saying, some people lose faith, unfortunately, because they have no evidence of God or Jesus. So I guess when you lose faith,
Yeah.
then you do need mental.
Right.
You do need your mental health.
You-
And that's why
yeah.
you talk to professions and everything.
Don't put
like
all
that.
your eggs in one basket kind
Exactly.
of thing, right? Okay, fine. So you lose God, then you need mental health. What about both? What about God and mental health? Can both of them coincide on the same, right? I mean, that's a good answer, right? Like, I get where you're coming from. That makes sense, absolutely. And I appreciate you participating. But, like, yeah, so after they lost faith, now they need mental health. What about people who are in the church, like you and me and those of us who are here? Like,
Well, sometimes.
your name?
Hazel. Sometimes when you get into a dark place, like, I guess like all the faith can just like be overshadowed by what you're going through. So maybe like your only option is mental health professionals.
Yeah, that's a good answer. I like that. Yes, maybe maybe spiritually you're just not in a place to where you're able to connect with God or speak with God or have that, and so maybe you need a little bit of more of a practical kind of approach from a mental health perspective. Okay, yeah. There's a distinction between both practices, and both practices have their professions, that's for sure. But I think a lot of us, like at a young age, especially when you're not like in the field, both kind of seem the same thing. Like spirituality, mental health, kind of seems like the same thing. So it's like, why do I need to go to two different people for the same thing? Like when my foot is hurting, I'm going to a podiatrist. When my teeth or gums are hurting, I'm going to a dentist. But when I'm like spiritually or like mentally or emotionally stressed, I could just go to Abuna, or I could just go pray to God, or I could just come, to church. Why do I need a mental health professional? But it's a good answer. It's a good answer, yeah. So did somebody have, Mary, I'll come back to you, sorry. Your
My name
name?
is Julie,
Julie?
and I think that because sometimes when we're like overwhelmed with like no faith and all that, sometimes we need like physical answers and like physical coping skills that we can do, because like although like God is with us, sometimes it's like hard to just communicate and be like, okay, so what do I do? Like it just takes time and like faith, and like it's not like physically right there for you like an answer. So sometimes it's good for therapy because they give us like coping skills, and like you can just physically like tell your stories to them, and they give you like advice and feedback like right there on the spot.
Good answer. Very good answer. I like that. Bible tells us, ask and you shall receive, knock and it will be open to you. So God tells us, come him directly. He says, come to me and I will give you all of your desires, needs, and above and beyond. He says, seek first the kingdom of heaven and everything will be added to you. So somebody would be like, well, just pray to God about your heartfelt needs, and God will provide. God will give you all that you need. I mean, again, this is discussion. The point of me responding isn't to say like that your answer wasn't good. Your answer is great, perfect. Coping skills those are tangible steps that we take that we can actually follow. But I'm trying to delve deeper into the question. Anybody? Mary? Yes, and then we'll go to you next.
I was thinking of the steps of how you become broken. Sometimes it's the spirituality is messed up, which leads to your mental health declining. And sometimes it's your mental health, which leads to your hopelessness in God, which leads to your spirituality declining. And in both cases, you need a spiritual guide, which is what we have the fathers of the church for. And for the mental stuff, you need a spiritual or a mental guide. And the mental guide has also the perspective of like the medical science of actually like the chemicals in your brain being affected, leading to the hopelessness, leading to the mess ups in your life.
Good answer. Yeah, you bring up a very, very, very good answer. She brought in the essentially a component of chemical imbalances, right? That mental health actually has a biological component called chemical imbalances, that we have serotonin levels, that we have dopamine levels, and these levels could be off the charts. And if you're medically or if you're chemically and hormonally like off balance, that is going to affect and manifest in your day-to-day life. Is it true that when you don't eat all day long that you become irritable? When you don't have sugar, you become more agitated and frustrated and you can't like complete your day? Is that why? Because chemical imbalances in your body can have an outward manifestation, right? If you're not sleeping, are you able to function at work? Right? If you're not eating, if you're not sleeping, if you're not resting, if you're not on a good healthy diet, all of those things, it can have manifestations in your day-to-day life. Yes, we can go to you. You had something to say. Sorry, one more time.
I feel like we need a good mix of both in our lives, because if we just seek one, like you say, therapy, or we just seek God, God can help us in so many ways, but then you're also going to want to figure out what am I going to do with these negative emotions that keep coming into my head? How do I deal with them? How do I start thinking more positive? Or if you just seek therapy and you forget the spiritual aspect, then you're just going to want to search for a deeper meaning, and you're not going to have that fulfillment you're looking for. So if you have a good mix of both, you can turn in both. God made us all different. He made us all with different purposes. So we have people surrounding us that can help us, and also resources for that.
Yeah, that's a really good answer. Are you a psych major or something? You are? You sounded like a psych major to me. That's awesome. Yeah, no, you're absolutely right. Both are good, right? The answer is both are good. And you touched on why both are good, because one feeds you spiritually and one feeds you behaviorally, emotionally, mentally, in your day-to-day life. There are examples in the Bible of people who suffered mental health issues. There are true examples. There are people who have sort of went into seclusion and isolation, and that is a symptom of depression. People who are isolated or secluded, people that sleep too much or don't sleep enough, people that eat too much or don't eat enough, people who can't relax, who are constantly agitated, who are constantly thinking and jittery, who can't find satisfaction or contentment in anything, right? Those are all clinical questions. Do you find pleasure from life? Does life give you any sort of satisfaction or content? Those are all clinical questions that can lead to depression. Jonah is an example of someone whose mental health was essentially tied to the bad choices he made. At one point in time, he wished for death. Right? And that is a symptom of depression. Somebody who is looking to die, somebody who is looking to end their life, is a symptom of depression. Same thing with King Saul. King Saul also suffered some sort of distress, although that was also affected from outside sources, because he ended up with evil spirits tormenting him and stuff like that. So yeah, and that's also an area of place to be careful of, because we think somebody sometimes asks does somebody having the devil on them and like evil spirits on them, is that the same thing as say schizophrenia, which we know is hallucinations, seeing, hearing things that are not there? Is that the same thing as evil spirits being on a person? Not necessarily, because schizophrenia is more of a medical condition. It's a mental health condition, and so we wouldn't want to put them together in the same. This is more, the evil spirit is based on spiritual forces, because do we believe in the devil? Yeah. Do we believe in evil forces? Yeah. We pray for principalities, dominions, and the powers, right? All the things we see and unseen to protect us from those things. So do we believe in unseen things? Do we believe in other spiritual forces? Absolutely. Just like we have the Holy Spirit, which is a spiritual force, there's other spiritual forces that can come on us. But we don't draw the line or diminish the line that with mental health, because mental health is a medical issue, just kind of like physical ailments are a medical issue, right? When you blow out your knee or you blow out your back or whatever, Do you say I'm going to go to church and pray and God will heal me and you just stay bedridden? No. You say, no, God gave us medicine. God gave us the knowledge and for providers who are medical health professionals to learn, to show us how to be treated. And so we go seek medical health professionals. And at the same time, we also come to God and say, God, help me understand your wisdom as to why I'm suffering from this specific illness, whether it be a medical illness or a mental health illness. And we know that suffering is a route to salvation. Like God allows us to go through suffering in order to get to Him in different ways, right? Suffering could be in a sense of losing somebody, or suffering could be in a sense of hurt, of pain, of failure, of whatever. There's many different types of suffering. So you don't close your eyes and say, no, my knee's not blown out, it's perfectly fine, God is going to heal it. In the same way, you don't say, no, I would never suffer depression, there's no way that I would need to be seeing a therapist or seeing or an anxiety or delusions or OCD or ADHD or whatever mental health issue that you might carry a stigma towards. With the same token, I would say that being spiritual supports our mental illness, right? So it's very important to always look at both sides of the token and not to drift one way or the other. But having a spiritual community, having a spiritual relationship with God, having a father of guidance, spiritual guidance, or a mentor, those are people who have higher outcomes in treating their mental illness, right? But also we don't want to deny that it's not a diagnosable issue, that it's not a treatable issue, and there is no cure for mental illness, because there has been a great body of research and professionals now that work in that field. So, any thoughts? Anybody want to add anything? Marianne, would you like to add something? Absolutely.
No, I was just going to say that prophets and biblical people in the Bible have all experienced emotional pain. And if you know the story of Elijah, okay, they say Elijah was what? He was suicidal. He said, "Take my life, O Lord." And Elijah was what? A prophet that prayed that no rain, and it never rained. So, like Mina said, okay, mental health, sometimes there's a stigma around it because it's not physical pain. It's not an injury or a wound that we can see. But sometimes it's as painful as real pain. And God has created us to be whole, and He wants us to be whole in every area, spiritually, emotionally, physically, and mentally. So it is our responsibility to seek help, because He said what? Do not try the Lord your God. So if you are suffering and it's at a point where you feel, I really, leaning on God or prayers are not helping, God is telling you today, go seek help, because this is His will for you. Okay.
How many psych majors in the room? 1, 2, 3, 4. 4 people. 5. 5 psych majors. Good. كفاية engineers بقى lawyers. Just kidding. No, my wife is an engineer. But I turned her into a therapist. I'm just kidding. All right. God willing, next Tuesday, we're going to have a YA meeting. And then the following Tuesday is... Yeah, Pascha, Holy Week. So we'll have a YA meeting every night after Pascha. So I hope to have you guys. We're probably going to have like a nice little theme to Pascha week. And God willing, after that, we'll resume. We'll probably take that week off, that Tuesday off after Easter, and then we'll resume the week after that. Okay? Awesome. All right. Let's go ahead and stand up for prayer. Good to see you, Andrew.